fucking intro. That's how we do it here. The Return of the Saltcast,
We
episode
are.
5, 2 years later.
It's episode 5.
I think so. I think that's the only documented episodes we have. Well, yeah. Looking at the OG videos. All right. Okay, here we go. This is our 9th edition wrap up. YouTube channel began with 9th edition, so we find it fitting to kind of do a bit of a 9th edition wrap up here.
Yeah.
Right. If you have to explain 9th edition in minimal words, as little words as possible, what would you say looking back at 9th?
Didn't play it.
We played it a lot. Fuck you.
We played it a lot. Whatever. Like,
We played it more than 8th. I will say that.
That's true.
Which is actually kind of like sad because I think 8th might have been the better of the 2 editions. Looking back on it.
Yeah. Overall, I think 9th was an interesting concept. It was improving on 8th. It ran into a lot of issues. The pandemic didn't help. There's a lot of
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of hurdles and a lot of oh, this was supposed to have been done months ago or years ago that slowed the game down. A lot of drama that wasn't really worth it. It's just oh, you know what? That just got fixed.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Yeah. There was a lot of codex creep, but...
Yeah, which is actually kind of interesting. Like, 7th or 8th didn't have a lot of codex creep, but 9th certainly had a lot of codex creep.
Yeah. And it was a lot of stuff people were like, oh, I mean, it goes back to when they just started 8th edition, and Frontline was just like, you guys don't know what's going on yet. Stop complaining about it.
That was I forgot all about that. Yeah, 8th was was that 9th or 8th where Frontline was like
8th.
Was that 8th?
That was the brand new when they changed the rules to the game.
Oh shit, I forgot about that. Yeah, Frontline
was
was a big part of the scene, and
Yeah.
they had very good understanding of all the rules that were coming out, and everyone else was freaking out with
oh my god, this shouldn't change the game.
Right. And nobody knew what was going on. That's right, I forgot about that. Yeah, there was a lot of drama around that. Jesus fuck. Actually, so in much hindsight, both 8th and 9th had a surprising a lot of drama around.
Yeah.
Just people...
I'd say the biggest thing is early... 8th edition was that big change. It was that intermediate period when they were doing new things, and people were like, is this what I want? But 8th edition, which we have never done anything on 8th edition, have we? We never talked about it.
We barely played 8th edition. Yeah.
As going back, as much as I love 7th edition, 8th edition was the edition to play the game.
Yeah.
The best edition for someone to join the game.
I agree with that one.
Yeah. You didn't have to worry about remembering a chart, equals 7, straight to 7, and It's just 7th edition, I love it. It was great, but anytime somebody would watch you play, it'd be like, what? How do you know what you need to roll?
I remember that. People have asked often when we were playing 7th. It's like, how do you guys know what you're doing? It's like, you just gotta know.
He's got to know it's a chart, and then they're straight. It's like, if you're the same, it's 4. If it's one higher, it's 5. Or if one lower, it's 5. Yeah.
There was a bunch of weird things.
It's a bunch of weird things. So, but 8th was the best because it got rid of a lot of that. They're just hits on this. No weapon skill versus weapon skills chart.
Oh, you youngins don't recognize that, and by youngins I mean people who played less than 5 years ago at this point.
You gotta remember the weapon skill versus weapon skill.
You compare the weapon skills, and you go to the grid, cross-reference that shit.
I never even remember what that was. It was just
it was shit. That's all I remember. It was.
I was like, know if you're double the opponent's weapon skill, you hit on 2s.
Yeah, but the going from, I don't know, it was weird. There was a weird point. It wasn't just a fixed ratio kind of a thing on that one, I remember.
I think a lot of that was fixed into 8th. Knife tried to clear up a lot of stuff, try to add a lot of stuff. I think Ninth, beginning of Knife, if I will describe Ninth as anything, Winter said it best. Winters had it right.
Well, we
He had
can't
the
we can't let him hear
prediction.
that. Don't let.
Winters had the prediction that Ninth Edition isn't for narrative players,
It
and
really
that
wasn't.
GW doesn't want people playing the game for fun.
They really didn't. They really
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah. And
And I kind of
actually,
agree.
yeah.
In a weird way, when that first came out, people were always like, "Oh, narrative players are going to play whatever they want. They don't need specific rules." I think it's the complete opposite. I think tournament players now will play whatever they want. Like,
This is
doesn't matter
true.
what GW puts out as rules. Tournament people will play those armies.
That is actually, in the glory of hindsight,
Yeah.
a way more accurate statement.
Yeah, like they don't care. It could be the most broken rules, whatever. That's
Right.
going to be the
Right.
meta.
Tournament players will adjust and
Right.
and fix shit themselves and make whatever whack ass comp rules that. Because I remember in seventh when shit was mad out of control, some tournaments were creating their own comp.
Yeah.
They were like making their own missions to try and balance the game, doing all sorts of jank
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. And then GW wasn't releasing anything for narrative players. I don't
Right.
think up until Arcs of Omen. I think Arcs of Omen was really the first.
Yeah.
All the scenario packs, yeah, you had like Crusade specific rules. But I mean, let's talk about Crusade. I think
Talk about Crusade.
was-
We talked a lot about Crusade.
I think Crusade was the greatest part of Ninth Edition.
I agree
I
with that.
feel it was very bookkeepy, but there's a lot of people who really like Crusade. There's a strong like audience of people who play Crusade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it took a lot of like bookkeeping to keep track of all your units and their buffs and their XP and but like there's people who like that. And GW supported it. They supported Crusade pretty hardcore, even through the codexes, right? There's
Yeah, every
Crusade
codex had a
specific-
crusade, and I will give them credit. I'm even looking at, like, I've got up on the screen some of the old videos. Like, very early on, they dropped the Beyond the Veil mission pack,
Right, the
which
Beyond
was
the Veil mission
Crusade, and
pack.
they
Right.
did support Crusade through
Yeah.
the whole thing.
I had like a specific campaign goal for your crusade where you're
Yep.
trying to like search for the Necron relics or stuff.
Yeah. It
That was kind of narrative, but
was kind of narrative. It
Yeah.
was. It was.
they're pushing that like crusade system. I
Right.
don't know what's gonna happen to it. I don't know if they talked anything about crusade. Did they?
They've referenced that Crusade will continue on.
will still be
and-
playable, yeah.
and that you could also bring your existing crusade from 9th into 10th.
Right.
They did say that it would be
I
compatible in that
mean,
way.
10th isn't enough of a change that it's gonna matter. Like,
Yeah, I don't
playing-
think so.
That's about it, but it's not really gonna matter with crusade.
No.
Uh,
I will say the interesting thing is I do remember in the very beginning when no one had crusade rules, and that was the
Right.
problem.
that was
is-
the issue.
And like you said, the big part of it was the COVID happened. We all couldn't get books, and so for a long time, just some armies just couldn't play crusade. It just wasn't an
Yeah.
option.
Or if you did, you had the generic rules, and it wasn't quite as fun as like,
Right.
like Space Marines and
Yeah.
everybody having.
If you
their,
had the
like,
rules, it was
yeah.
obviously way more fun. You had the good
the
stuff.
Necrons, yeah.
hmm
So I mean, that's a good element of Ninth Edition.
Okay.
Crusade.
Crusade is going on the positive.
I think, I think the codexes got slowed down.
That was, and it was what it was on that one.
Right. I think for the longest time in the majority of Ninth Edition, GW pushed the competitive scene, and the competitive scene dominated like everything. The meta, like everything was just dominated by the competitive scene.
Right.
And GW was pushing out the games day or the grand tournament pack.
Yeah, the GT
every
packs and
year.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yep.
the GT pack.
It got to be like twice a year
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
one point, I think.
Yeah, adjusting rules, adjusting scenarios, adjusting secondaries, like
So actually, let's hold up
like
on that
changing
thought
the
right
game.
there. Let's hold up on that thought right there, because that's a big one that GW actually prior to this edition has never done before, right? In the beginning, I remember they were going to adjust the game twice a year at end of the year and mid year.
Right.
And then at some point, they started dropping intermittent patches, like these emergency patches. And then at some point, there was basically a patch every codex, which once they got going, it was like every other month basically.
Right.
And then shit kind of got out of control where like they could just update it anytime and every time, like anything happened whatsoever. And to the point
Uh,
where like the infamous they patched the Voltan book before it even released because tournament players were so salt about it.
no, it released in the limited army box.
Oh, that's right. The
If you
limited
got that
box,
army box, you'd have the book, and the
right,
rules were useless because they changed
right, and
them.
then they immediately patched it because
Yeah.
people, tournament players, just couldn't handle at that point. Um, and that was a big thing of this edition. They'd
It
never done that before.
it was good and bad. I think people saw that it was kind of powerful, and GW decided to patch it. GW released a very passive aggressive video about it.
one of the greatest examples of the passive
Yeah,
aggressive.
James Workshop. Uh, but it's yeah, it is something new. Like fourth edition or fifth edition, it's like, oh, this army's broken. Well, you're screwed with that army until they do another edition. Like,
It's
deal
true.
with it.
It's true. There
Yeah,
was a lot of you just deal with it, or just not play that army. Just play a
or just
different
not play.
army.
Yeah, yeah,
That's literally how it used to be.
yeah.
And
And then like, was this? Yeah, the ninth edition was very much the edition of this is my tournament army. I only play it in tournaments. Right?
this
That
is
was the thing. People were
true.
just like,
This
I
is
don't play
true.
this for fun.
Yes. Yes. But this was also the edition where people had casual armies. I remember this too.
Right.
Where people were like, I got a tournament army and I got a casual army. And that
Yeah.
was also new. Because back in the day, people had their army and you just sucked it up
Right.
sometimes.
And I think that as ninth went on, because ninth went, did we figure it out? Is it 3 years or
It's been actually 2 years. Let's
2
just
years?
hit the Wikipedia on this one real quick.
I mean, 2 years ago is when we started, so
All right.
that's about right. We
Yeah,
started
two
the
two years
video
is when
2 years
the
ago.
channel
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So like, I would say 2 years isn't a bad cycle for GW,
Mhm.
but I don't remember eighth edition wasn't even. I don't know if eighth edition was that. I think eighth edition was maybe a year.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Let me see here. 40K ninth edition. Let me see. Ninth edition was released in July of 2020. So it will be 3 years to their credit at when 10th edition release.
Okay.
It'll be 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and I think to a certain point, once everybody got their books out, people just kept playing. I think people got used to the tournament scenes and secondary. But the weirdest thing is there were people who played tournaments that were just like, I can't deal with this. Like, I don't want to play this game and have to deal with secondaries and primaries and all this. Like, I think Valrak talked about that, where he was like, I just don't want to play in tournaments because it's not fun. Like,
Right, right. And that one's definitely a huge double-edged sword because they really balanced the game around those secondaries to the point
yeah,
where like there were some weaker armies who could compete solely on the basis that they had secondaries that were just god tier easy.
yeah,
And likewise, like yeah, some armies got nerfed through their secondaries. So it's another layer to the game. Was it necessary? Some people might say yes,
right.
but I think a lot of people would say no.
I feel GW jumped onto the like gaming aspect and the like kind of e-gaming style of people doing videos and tournament like Magic the Gathering basically. Like that, and that's kind of ninth edition. A lot of people started covering it. A lot of people started covering tactics, talking about meta of the game.
Stats.
Right, stats and yeah. And which is fine. Like it's fine for a tournament basis, but it got to a point where that was the only thing GW kind of cared about.
Right, right.
And people just got tired of it.
I think
And
that's what it
then
is. Yeah.
In the run of that, Horus Heresy was released,
It was.
and people were like, this game is good.
which is really interesting because
Yeah.
for all the shit that people gave seventh at the time of seventh,
Right.
like you just so interestingly, I got it up here. Eighth edition released in June of 2017, so it has been two sets of three.
Okay.
They didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, though they've ran their normal 3 year cycle on these.
Okay.
But yeah, interestingly, Heresy released, and
Yeah.
people for all the shit that people gave seventh, all the bloat that people said seventh had, people were really hyped for Heresy,
Yeah. People had that push, and then people had the whole seventh, or sorry, Horus Heresy. That's that's our historical game.
which
We
is
got to
funny.
play this
This
historical.
historical game.
We got to. You got to. It's a narrative army list, not like you don't take what's most optimal. That's not how you play the game. And there are some
Right.
people that are doing it, like they were taking all dreadnoughts and all that, but it's not fun. People were just like, we're gonna play this for fun. Like no
Right.
one's trying to play this competitively.
I think that speaks though to the narrative side of the community just
Right.
wanting something for them,
Right.
and yeah, like you said, GW doesn't have to write rules for tournament players because people tried to play Heresy tournament like in a tournament. I know they had tournaments and whatnot,
Right.
but tournament players will just play anything competitively. You can
Right.
play,
Play anything. Doesn't
right.
matter.
You can play. You can do any like watching CB Media has taught me that you can compete in literally anything if you just try hard enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Like, it doesn't matter.
no
The
narrative
scoring,
on the
they'll
other
make their
hand.
own scoring
Yeah.
system. They'll do whatever. Like it doesn't matter. And then they did the Arcs of Omen,
They
which
did.
is a really good step of driving a narrative.
I did really enjoy Arcs of Omen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Telling a storyline. There's a lot of interesting and I think it's one of the few where it's like that book doesn't really have any competitive rules.
It doesn't.
Doesn't really have anything big. You can buy those books and still just read them for their content.
You can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's a good push on GW side. I think GW needs to do more of that.
I agree. I like how they did Arcs of Omen more than how they did Psychic Awakening.
Psychic Awakening. Yeah, Psychic Awakening was there was too many rules specific. It was like you can play this special army that's in Psychic Awakening.
Right.
And
Carry
that's
another
the
book with
only
you.
army everyone ever played.
It really was.
Right.
That was a thing. So yeah, no, I think that the GW towards the end of the ninth cycle seems to have
Yeah.
figured a lot of things out, and
And I think a biggest thing was just we were waiting for our armies to get a new book so we
Right.
could play them, like Thousand Suns and Eldar. But once they got them, it was just like we played maybe 1-2 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Their stratagems just got bloated. You had like 50, I don't know, less than that, probably 30 stratagems. Like you had a
It feels like it
decks
was
of stratagems.
right. I mean, if
I
you
had
had
to buy
a
the
supplement
deck.
book, you definitely got up to
Right.
50. Like that's for sure.
I had to buy a deck of cards so I could remember the stratagems I want to use because that's the only way you could do it. And then I have sealed decks of cards.
I'll see what GW always keeps selling you cards.
Right.
They're somehow figure that one out.
And it, like even with my Eldar, I only play Aendon. I only probably used 5, maybe 6 stratagems, if that.
Yeah.
There was no reason to have all those stratagems.
No, there really wasn't. And I think it got to the point when I was filming battle reports, I would just write down maybe
Right.
4 or 5 stratagems for each
Right.
army, and that's all I would like focus on using. You know,
Yeah. And then like mini wargaming, like Matt and them said, at a point when they're playing a game and you run out of command points, it actually was a lot better to play the game because then you just played the game. You didn't have to be like, wait. I think I got a stratagem for this somewhere. You're not looking through your stratagems trying to figure something. You're just playing the game.
right? And I do think that actually broke up the flow of the game a lot.
It did.
Yeah.
There was so much that slowed the game down.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at tournaments, they're like what 2-3 hour.
Yeah, 3-hour
More
rounds.
than that, right? 3 hour. Yeah.
That's crazy. 3-hour rounds, like
3 hours to get a game done. Like insane.
right. And these are competitive players who very much understand their army. They're not looking up rules. They're not looking up interactions. They're not taking their time when they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are playing optimally, and there was lots of stories of people not finishing games
Yeah,
still.
not finishing games still. It's ridiculous. It slowed it down,
Hmm.
and I know that they had, they were pacing it. GW seen it. You could tell with the launch of or the stuff for 10th edition. They've seen the issues. They're making the game faster.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're making the game AOS. Oh, we can't say that here.
I mean that's maybe a different video. Actually, that one we should do after they
After
have
it,
the
yeah,
heresy
yeah,
or the weekender that shows people actually playing the game. We'll see
right.
like how close it is.
I like what they're doing. It seems that they're prioritizing the speedy nature, a much faster game, not having to look up, not having to carry like 40 books. I think that was the
Yes.
big thing at the end of ninth. It was just like, oh, I have 5 books I gotta
I
carry.
swore at the beginning of like eighth, they were just like, "Yeah, we
Right.
understand you don't want to carry five
Don't want
books,"
to carry five
and
books.
somehow we're back here again. Thanks,
Yeah.
GW. Like, got
And that's always been the thing. And codexes have always just been waste of money.
they are, they are. We bought a lot of ninth edition codexes
Right.
that are now gonna go onto the shelf for this
Yeah.
edition.
It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy ninth. Like
Yeah,
it was too bloated.
it really was.
Um
Yeah.
it
Which,
was nice to see the different rules and all that, but there were so many rules. They started giving like armies more rules than like Gene Stealer Cole got the crossfire rules
yeah,
on
that's right.
top
Like,
of the ambush cult
every army had
ambush.
multiple army
Yeah.
specific rules. Yeah,
Um
that one.
oh, Eldar got the strands of fate.
Yeah, the Strands of Fate, and then you had your sub faction rules.
I
Then
love the strands of fate, and I love that mechanic. Strands of fate, fate dice, faith points. But I think at a certain point, they were just giving armies these rules, and some armies' rules were better than others.
oh, for sure,
Like,
absolutely, I will agree with that one.
yeah, strands of fate are 100% better than the fate dice. The Zinch
Oh
dice,
yeah, absolutely, they're
yeah,
better. All those mechanics were way better than the Thousand Suns, which was basically like old school psychic dice, but for an
right,
entirely different table and mechanic that you could spend,
yeah,
whatever it was. Yeah, no, that mechanic was shit.
yeah. And I think they really need to remove it. I don't think it did anything. It did help the game, but it just more rules.
Right.
Like Eldar did not need that push. They didn't need to guarantee psychic powers when they already guaranteed psychic powers. Just give them the reroll psychic powers back.
Right. Yeah, there was much simpler ways
Yeah.
rather than the convoluted ways that they did the rules. No, that's for certain.
And I do hope in going in the 10th, they cut a lot of the bloat out. We don't need this to play the game.
I
Just want to play the game.
I think the interesting one was because everyone had so many rules, it kind of felt like at a certain point that everyone just had every rule. Like no one
Right.
had really unique things. Like very few armies had a unique thing
Early on.
early
Early on when
on.
no one else had it.
Right. But like there was a point when everybody had deep strike.
Right.
Everybody could just have like rerolls galore. Everyone had these phases where you got plus ones to certain specific things.
Right.
It just became so homogenized because everyone had so many rules. That, yeah, like
Everybody got ways of ignoring wounds.
right,
or
you could
every,
ignore wounds.
Everybody got the shield, or not shield of faith. Armor of contempt.
Oh yeah, Armor of Contempt was a big one where half the game
was
just got that
yeah.
rule for no
It was a
reason.
band-aid to fix the
It was
game.
a terrible band-aid. And then they just ripped the band-aid off and they're like, Space Marines, we remember, and then like everyone else was like, you guys can go to hell, like you guys just suck it.
Be like, what happened? Why do we all lose this ability now?
It's
We
like, nah,
gained it?
nah.
We lost it.
It's like, nah, you don't get this anymore. It's like, suck it. Do we get a
Like,
replacement on it? Like,
sorry,
no
this was-
replacement. No replacement.
This was too strong. Like you think. You think. Not only do you have armor contempt, you had transhuman physiology.
You transhuman,
Yeah.
right? You had all
like
that.
you either got armor contempt on it or you transhumaned it. Like
Like, no. Get them both.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah, both.
No,
No.
that was ridiculous. And yeah, just I don't know. That was, and like you said, like that transhuman was on top of whatever your
Yeah.
faction rule was. So like they
Yeah.
just gave you another free rule just because. Like,
Right.
so yeah,
And
no,
that was them band-aiding the GT, circuits and try to band-aid all these other armies they released
hmm I
without
mean,
having I think they didn't want to do Space Marines 2.5 or whatever it was up to.
yet again, do a 2.5,
3.5 or yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that also goes to speak to the power creep that
Right.
you had to literally give these armies entirely like new rules to buff them just to even keep up with like some of the later books.
I think it's because they gave all the other Xenos armies too many rules.
Yeah, yes, there was a point where some armies were just ridiculous. I will say that, especially yeah, like, and then like they did other really weird things too, like the Admech nerf, where
Yeah.
the Admech book was clearly written on par with like the later books. It would just happen to be the
Right.
first one that came out, and obviously it was way stronger, and they just straight out nerfed it into the ground, knowing that they
Well,
were going to
yeah.
release books
Right.
that were on par, and then they just kept nerfing every book into the ground in an attempt to like balance the game, even though the
Balance it
game
out. Yeah.
was perfectly balanced if you just unnerfed everyone because they were all made to play against each other. But like you
Well, it's
said,
like Eliminators.
oh yeah, oh the
Like
Eradicators,
Eliminators got the Eradicators.
yeah,
Eradicators got the hard nerf.
they did for what's probably no reason.
Right.
But like, yeah, you're right. When you're the only one with rules, obviously you're going to be 100
Yeah.
times better than anyone else.
And was also like the only models available. It was
It's true.
early on. I think it was before. I think Admech might have come out before they got nerfed, but
Not very
like
long.
it was
before.
the Dominion box. Is it Dominion? No,
um,
Indominus.
Indominus. Yep.
It was the Indominus box, and that's it. And those models were broken. Everybody took those models. I think GW should have figured out that double tapping meltaguns pretty broken.
Yeah. I mean,
But like they're
seems
short
good.
range and you gotta move. But you made the table smaller.
Oh, that's another one. We can talk about that also. Is yeah, they shrunk the game size of the table.
They shrunk the game size. I understand they shrunk the game size so that their game would fit on a regular table.
Right.
So you don't need a gaming table. Like fair. Like it was drama at that time. I don't really find it to be
And no one cares
an
anymore.
issue. No one cares anymore.
It's true.
They released enough of the board that you can get those boards and play the
Right.
game.
Right.
And I think people were playing it at a smaller point level and enjoyed that table size.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the
Or
thing
you were
is
playing
like,
on a full table. Like it didn't matter.
right. That's the thing is you could just play it on a larger table, and it's not
Right.
like it would negatively impact anything. Like it's fine.
Yeah. Like you've got more space. Even with the larger table size, the modified larger table size, you got more space to put stuff. You have more space to, and especially in tournaments, they're taking up less room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like that table size, I think is good.
Yeah.
I think that change is good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of annoying because we went all these years with a standard like 4x6.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And now had to get a completely new size that was random.
It was a little
Seemed
arbitrary
to be
in size.
randomly
Yeah.
determined, but yeah.
Right. Right. But I mean, oh, here's another one that I completely forgot about. Also, I forgot that games used to be 6 turns, but now they are a standard 5.
Are they 5?
They are 5-turn games now. Yes.
Games used to be like 8 turns or
They
like 7th edition.
games used to have random turn end, and you're
You're like,
correct.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
shit could go
yeah.
up to eight turns. With
Like
that said,
I think it was starting on turn 5 you had to roll, or
no, was it 5 or
maybe
6?
it was turn. Some of them like you had to start. I think it was turn 5 you had to roll, and then on a 6 it ended or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, something
Right.
like that. And then like every turn it would go up or down one, whatever.
Right. Like it's easier to end the game
Right.
like the later you get, and then it would hard
But you
end.
could get like 8 turns or something, and then be
Right.
like, oh,
Right. And with that said, the game's now in a hard 5 turns, and this
Or
it's
five
still
turns.
three
Yeah.
3 hour rounds, which is
Yeah.
clearly a problem with this edition. That
Right.
5 turns is going 3 hours. It's like,
Right. I
yeah,
understand the set turns. It makes sense. It's more standardized for tournaments.
right, right. And I actually don't
Yeah.
mind a 5 turn game. It's
Right.
fine. The game can just end at 5 turns. I don't
That's
mind that, but
about average for everything now.
yeah, I do mind that a 5 turn game is still going multiple hours.
Right.
Because right, we used to play 2 hour games and we could go like 7 or 8 turns.
7 or 8 turns.
And yeah, like that's like that. The game should have ended at an hour and a half. We
Right.
kept rolling random ends.
There's a
it
lot
kept
of
going.
points. It's just like are we just gonna stop playing? Like
Right, right. That's the thing too. Right. It's just like
there's no point anymore.
yeah, yeah. So no, that was another thing also. So
Yeah. No. There's a lot of changes they made, and as much as they made the game easier to play. It's not 7th edition by any route, but 7th was fine if you were already like deep into the game.
right, right.
Like
If you
if
had
you had an army
four
yeah,
editions of rules memorized
Right.
in your head.
it was a good addition of the game. Starting to get into the game might not have been the best addition to do it.
It was probably pretty difficult for new players. In fact, I
Right.
do remember there were a few new players to 7th edition when we were
Yeah.
playing, and it was rough times. I will
You
say
get
that.
all the gotcha moments in 7th where it was like, oh, I've got this special rule. Like what?
There was a lot of that.
No, 7th edition was the edition where you made up rules until your opponent like called
Called you out on
was
it.
Like, whoa, I don't think you have that. Like,
I was like, oh, my mistake. My mistake.
Right.
This is true. There was a lot of
My
that.
special formation allows me to only take gene stealers, and if I take a patriarch, then I can add them into a unit. And now I roll 2 dice to see if I deploy within 3 inches.
Oh, that's right. Okay, for all the shit that we're giving ninth for having too many rules, like shit, 7th had a lot of rules also.
7th had a lot of rules, but a lot of them were optional. Like, hey, let's play with the flyer supplement.
Oh, nobody
you
wants to
play
talk
rock,
about
paper,
that.
scissors.
Nobody wants to talk about. Thank God that GW has stopped doing those sorts of things. No more mini games within games. There's a reason.
Well,
that...
they released the 40K BattleTech game that no one ever played.
40...
It was in the Knights box.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Was that
The
8th
Start
edition?
collecting Knights.
That was 8th edition.
No, that was 7th edition.
Was that 7th
The first
edition?
one. The first
Oh,
one.
okay, okay.
Yeah, they re-released the Start collecting Knights.
Okay.
No,
All
the
right.
first edition, the first time they had the 2 knights in the box, came with special rules so you can play like a knight duel.
Ah,
No
that's
one ever
right.
looked at those rules. People just bought the box for the 2 knights.
That's right. I mean, literally, I don't know why else you bought those
Yeah.
box.
Yeah. I still have those rules. I still have them in my box. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
No, yeah. 7th edition had a lot of rules.
That's true. That's true. No. No.
I still think 7th edition is easier than with stratagems.
I do agree because at least your rules were fixed.
Right.
There was
you had
not
a lot of pre-game rules, or you had some like D weapons, but D weapons are pretty easy to understand.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't really interact unless you're a douchebag or an Eldar player.
You're an Eldar player. Eldar, that would be the one thing I will also say is in 7th edition, some armies had a lot more rules than other
Right.
people did. Like, Eldar was a big offender of that.
No one's
Tau
ever
was also a big
complained-
offender.
No one's ever complained that Eldar has been underpowered.
I mean, Eldar is never underpowered. That's
Eldar is never underpowered.
Yeah.
I've never seen an edition where Eldar was like, oh man, they nerfed Eldar, they're underpowered. Like, no,
Right.
they've always been ridiculously strong.
I
For
will say that
such a limited model line and such a
yeah.
they never gave him any. They gave him a few things, but that's it.
I will say maybe 8th was like the weakest that I've seen Eldar.
That's because they didn't have a book until
That's
a
true.
while.
That's true.
Once they got a book,
They were sitting on it next.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they have been kind of ridiculous ever since.
yeah.
They've been ridiculous since 3rd edition, let's be honest. I will say, though, sometimes Eldar is easier to play than other times.
Yeah.
Like
Certain
some
points.
editions, certain
right.
points in the game, Eldar is a little more like intro friendly.
Right. Third and fourth, I feel they were a little harder.
Third and fourth, I would definitely say they were very hard to play. Yeah,
That's because they still suffered from the fact that they were like T3 dudes.
yeah. They
Like,
didn't have
like
anything
right.
offsetting. They were really glass cannon early on.
Really a little more expensive, but low
Right.
toughness.
And that was
Yeah.
also pre them having a lot of the things like the Wraith Knight or
Right.
the melee versions of the Wraith Guard. Like none of that was even existing back then.
But
So
they were like the psychic dominated force because you
yes,
didn't you didn't have Thousand Suns yet. I
not
think.
really, no, and
Right.
not to the psychic like that people
Right.
know them today. Definitely not.
Like the Eldar were 100% the psychers. I mean, because they're high elves.
Right. Basically,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say there was a lot of
The
new
we're
armies.
getting to like we're getting into like the boomer territory.
Oh,
We gotta
we're
get
gonna
away
go to
from
boomer.
talking
Go
about
back
the
to
old
ninth.
days.
Talking about ninth.
Like, there were a lot of new armies that
There
I
was a
think
lot of new armies that
was
came
there.
out. There's Volton. There's World Eaters.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, Worldies as a specific army.
yeah,
Like,
as a specific army, you could
right.
always generically play World Eaters. But Volton, what was there any
Yeah.
other new armies that came out, or is that it?
I don't think there was any brand. I think Votans was the only brand new army of ninth.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad then.
Yeah.
All right, I
I don't
guess.
think there was. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the
no,
only brand new army.
you're right. You're right. So that actually wasn't too bad. I don't know if we needed Volton.
I don't know if we needed Votan either.
It's I don't know who asked for squats. What we
Everyone
asked
asked.
for was the
Everyone
plastic
wanted
Thunderhawk.
squats.
We didn't ask for
Everyone wanted
squats.
squats. We got a plastic Thunderhawk.
Not a good one. Not a real one. It's not a real plastic Thunderhawk.
GW never said that those clocks were 40k clocks.
They just wanted to throw that clock on the ground. That's all that
Right, right.
was.
I mean, they
Just,
gave
that was
us
hateful.
Necromunda squats and
You did. You got Necromunda.
not squats.
Was
Yeah.
Necromunda during the era of Ninth Edition, the return of Necromunda, or was that 8th Edition that came back also?
It was somewhere in between that.
In between it?
Necromunda has been kind of static for like a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think like in 8th it was Necromunda, and then like for 9th they did the Ashways.
No, that's right.
Right.
Ashways was the thing.
They just gave him new models. Is all they did.
Okay,
So,
okay.
no real new rules. Like
Yeah,
Necromunda
yeah.
is still a pretty strong system. There people like playing it. That's the narrative system.
That is the narrative system. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill Team was also got a big push
Still
this
see,
edition.
yeah.
Because we got all the
There's
Kill
such
Team
that
boxes.
there's such that divide that whenever I watch stuff, there's people who love Kill Team, people don't like 40k, and Kill Team players who love Kill Team to hate 40k. Like
Yeah.
40k players don't like Kill Team.
Hmm.
Like it's a very strong divide
Interesting.
because Kill Team is fun and it's fast, but it's not 40k,
Right. It is its own game.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
I can see people who like the skirmish and like the fast play aspects.
Uh huh.
That is. I mean, it's like Alpha Strike compared to BattleTech.
True.
It
That
it gives you the flavor, but none of like the really complexity.
right. You are using the same models.
Right,
Yeah,
using the
that makes
same
sense.
models, yeah.
Yeah.
But they did some really cool armies for it, like Kill Team specific.
That's the
sculpts.
thing, right?
Yeah,
You got like the all the different
right.
the guard models that came from it. Like the Krieg was basically a Kill
Right.
Team army.
Like, but at this point, I think GW understands there's. Well, I guess it's not specialist games, but there's spin-off games. They could reserve those to, people will play them. They can release whatever. They could do like really cool specific models for all those armies, and they don't really have to update the rules as constant because they're a separate
Mm-hmm.
entity
That
that
makes
people can
sense.
play no matter what edition.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Right. That is nice for them because you're right. It's not some like a new edition
Right.
of 40k doesn't mean that all these rules get
Right.
invalidated. They basically still exist.
And I think that's the thing they realize, and what they did with specialist games is to
Yeah.
make them their own thing. Like, you can still use those models. They
Mhm.
did it with AOS. Like the Warcry models are usable in AOS
Right.
because GW sells models at the end of the day,
They are. They are not a game company. They,
right?
there was a minute where they tried to pretend like they were a game company, but at the end of the day, you're right. They're not. They're not really a game
No,
company. They are a model company first.
they make models. Like GW's rule set is probably not the best in the industry, but GW's models are the best. Like
Yeah.
hands down, anyone can argue, and you could say that other, someone else makes better models, but plastic, like no, no one else in the wargaming industry makes better plastic models
Yeah.
than GW. Like hands
No one
down,
can also
no one.
vomit them out like GW can.
Right?
Like
Yeah.
their production rate is like actually kind of ridiculous.
There's some companies with nice models, but not even close to. And I know Gamza says that.
Oh, we summoned again. I was wondering if his name was going to come up on this one.
Well,
We summoned Gamza.
They say 3D printing is better, but I don't know. Still, I don't know. I don't think it's even close. Yes, 3D printing gets you some nice models, but there's some stuff that GW releases that you wouldn't see in 3D just yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Just yet.
also like you can, like you said, you can get some nice models. You really need like an 8K printer though to get like some
Right.
of that real nice. Like,
You need to dial it in. You need to really,
hmm
you need to have the right resin. There's so much where you could just
Right.
buy a GW model off the shelf, especially some of their ridiculous like giant plastic models that are standing on a foot or something, like
True.
ridiculously posed.
True. There is
I mean,
some poses where like
yeah.
I wouldn't want that in resin. Like
Right.
having it in plastic is a thing. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I think like the Bloodthirst is a perfect example of that, where he's like
Right.
jumping off of like one toe on a flame and it's supporting an entire ass model with giant wings. So yeah, that's not a resin
Yeah.
model. No. No.
But yeah, I mean, we're getting off the point of ninth
Where we are,
edition.
we're tangenting again.
Complaining about
Whatever. This is the
about,
Saltcast.
yeah.
This is boomer talk. we can do whatever on these.
But
on these ones.
ninth was good. It was there.
Yeah.
I played like maybe one game in a new codex and then never played again.
we, I remember we did play one true tournament style 40K game. We
Yeah.
tried it once, and it was a lot. I mean, I
a lot.
understand why they're 3 hour rounds like that.
Right.
I'm not doubting that the round size is wrong, but
I think we always do like a 2K Thousand Suns versus IN in
Yep.
Army just to get the feel of how our armies play in this edition.
right. When we both got our books, that's what we did. Yeah, we
Right.
played a complete. We used every single rule, secondary rules,
Yeah.
the whole nine on that.
And I still kind of feel that Eldar. Well, okay, IN didn't specifically got a little shafted
And
as far as like the psychic level and point level, because the Wraith Guard got pointed up. I think got reduced, but I just felt the army didn't play as good as it used to.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. And I
felt that they
agree.
focused Eldar
Yeah.
onto other units.
I agree with that one. Yeah, I feel like 8th edition was actually when the Wraith army was like maybe at its
Yeah.
strongest.
Think about that now. Did we do a 2,000 point? Did we do a 2,000
8th edition
point
game?
army? Yeah.
Yeah,
Ninth
I won that
edition
game. I won the game
ninth ed-
because what happened on that one was when I could still do the Zangor bomb thing, and I used the we played a game and we were chilling,
Oh,
and
but
I
that was-
basically used the dark matter crystal to drop my entire Zangor line behind you, and I hit all of your psychers with like a giant like 20-man line of Zangors. So I won the 8th edition game.
I don't
remember
remember
this.
playing with the avatar, but I don't think I used.
You didn't use the avatar in that game.
Right.
I do remember that. Yeah, you didn't have the
Yeah.
avatar at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
won
just
the
I
8th.
just felt Thousand Suns had a little better psychic because they got a lot of psychic power rules.
We did. Our secondary rules were just more psychic powers.
Right.
Right. So yeah. I do think you won the 9th edition game though, because of secondaries.
Yeah.
That was a weird one though. Yeah, it was. I think it came down to the secondaries on that one.
Yeah, it came down to a lot of which is cool, and again, that's why people had secondaries. Cause,
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're
they
right.
were the
Like
tiebreakers.
power wise, I do think the Thousand Suns when we played were just flat
Right.
out more powerful.
And I think going in 10th edition is going to be a good because now I can play my army the way I want to play my army.
Are we gonna extend the Saltcast into thoughts on 10th? Because we've gotten quite a bit of info
I
on
don't
10th.
think so yet.
Not yet?
We've
Okay,
talked a
we're
lot
hold off
about
on it.
10th, but
All right, all right, all right,
I am hopeful.
all right. Hopeful, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. I think going in, I want to say going into 10th, I think my army is going to be fun to play.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
I'm more looking forward to playing it than playing it with its current rules.
I will actually agree, because I haven't played Thousand Suns since the current Arcs of Omen and the
Current
loss
Arcs
of
of
the
Omen,
thing.
yeah.
But I will say that Thousand Suns, even at its peak of where it was competitively powerful, uh, I will not say that this was my favorite version of playing my Thousand Suns either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ironically, and I think you're probably going to agree with this one also. I hate to say it, but seventh might have been my favorite time playing Thousand
This is the
Suns.
greatest.
I
Even though
really,
it just 7th edition was the is this psychic phase? Well, we're gonna take an hour now. So
it was ridiculous.
most people skip the psychic phase, but our two armies played it for
Right.
like
We just
that's the
played
major
the
part of our
second
game.
phase.
How many dice you gonna throw?
We had some nonsensical amount of dice. We
Right.
had to buy more
And
dice just for the
rerolls
second
and a
phase.
bunch of other stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, all right. Here's the final question. Flavor wise, and game wise, where does ninth edition fall? Like, was it better than third? Better than fourth? Like, where are we putting ninth edition?
I have the 7th nostalgia, but I think that it's easier to play.
Okay,
Ninth
game.
is
So
easier to play.
complexity. I think it is an easier game to play. I agree with that.
Ninth
Not
is
easier than
to
eighth.
play.
Eighth
Not
was
easier than
easier,
eighth.
but definitely
I mean,
easier than almost all editions, other than maybe third. Like third might also have been easy to play.
Fun to play. I don't think it was as fun to play though. I think it was there's too many rules, too much like having to worry about secondaries. Even if you play without secondaries,
right.
Stratagems was a big one, but like you'd have to not play with stratagems. And
You'd also have to remove a lot of rules at that point to get it back to that point.
Not as broken as third edition or
third was
fourth
pretty
edition,
third and fourth were pretty out of control.
Yeah.
Like good armies were good, bad armies were bad. But it was easy to play.
It was easier to play in that edition because you didn't have that much rules.
Right.
You just had to know the basic rules.
Right.
There were some nice new models released.
Yeah,
it's always good to see new models.
It's very true. Very true.
I don't know if 9th edition innovated anything in the edition, like besides Crusade. But
besides Crusade,
yeah,
Crusade was the thing.
I don't know if there's any new innovations in the edition. Like 8th edition brought in stratagems and a bunch of other stuff. And
right.
Yeah, 9th edition really didn't bring anything new. It was a fixing of 8th.
Yeah.
And just piling on rules to armies that didn't matter.
True. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
And as much as yes, we like to shit on 7th.
Right.
I think even flavor of the armies, like the way the armies felt to play, like I don't even think this was the most flavorful.
I don't think anyone's gonna go back to play 9th edition. Like we kind of said that when 8th edition was coming out that no one would go back to play 7th edition, but
Heresy proved us wrong.
Yeah, Heresy proved us wrong. I think people missed 7th edition.
Yeah.
I think 7th was fun. Like it was the pinnacle of the old editions. Like
right.
It had the old school style, so it was very much 5th, 6th, but optimized. Like the most optimal of that edition.
Right.
5th, 6th, 7th. Like
I
just don't think people are gonna go back and play 8th or 9th edition. Either of those editions. I don't think anyone's gonna go back and play them.
Right. Right.
Like looking back, people play third edition still. People play second edition still.
Well, second is its own thing, right? Right. But you're right.
Right.
People do play third, fourth.
Yeah.
Like you'll find people who like will nostalgically go back and play
Nobody's
those
just gonna be like,
editions.
man, you remember 8th edition? Let's play 8th edition 40k. Like nobody wants to go back and play 8th edition. Let's go
Well,
play
yeah.
index.
Let's go back and play some indexes.
I don't think you could find an index. I think everyone just dumped them. Like no one. Those are rare. Nobody cares about them though because they're worthless.
Oh, that's so true.
They're worthless pieces of trash that nobody cared about.
This is true. This is true.
And no
Yeah.
one's gonna go back and be like, man, you remember when we had indexes?
I mean, we are going to go back to indexes, but that's also to be seen. What sort of rules we're
That-
going to get for this?
Them saying indexes, I think, leaves a bad taste because of the old, the 8th edition indexes.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the 8th edition indexes were very half-assed and like
Oh yeah.
they were a step up from Age of Sigmar. Go hug a
Barely.
tree.
You mean the original purging
The original, yeah.
Oh,
Go
wow.
hug a tree. Go. If you kneel, you lose.
I mean, let's be honest. At least
great
those
edition.
at least those editions had flavor to them.
We should go back.
The old
to
indexes
AOS.
were just like, wow, if you
AOS
find the
first
rules.
edition.
Wow.
Find the old rules with the
Wow.
like. If you have a bigger beard than the opponent. Someone needs to run an AOS, like original AOS tournament where all these rules are in play.
Oh my shit! I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if anybody can handle those rules. People could barely handle those rules when that was all you had. Like people just completely.
But I think they were fun. I think people, yeah. I mean, GW wasn't serious about it. Like
No,
they
no.
were obviously trying to get rid of all the old fantasy players.
Yes.
Like, GW being passive aggressive about it again. But
GW is there. That's just the British in them. I think we just gotta accept that.
anyways, tangent again. But off the topic of. But if you're out there and you're listening and you're gonna hold a original AOS
Original AOS tournament.
first edition rules,
If you
You
can
let us
find
know.
enough
Let us know.
rules
Right.
to run that,
Right.
that'd be amazing. Oh, God. I guess technically also this edition brought us the app. I forgot about that too. The app was a thing.
yeah, it's a thing. It's there. It's there.
Yeah.
I think at this point, it's nice that it's there. It's not as necessary. I don't know. It's nice to have. It's nice to have to look up. You know,
All right.
yeah, you got to subscribe, but whatever. You got free models out of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I watch some of their like stuff every now and again.
I watched a few things before, but I haven't watched anything recently.
Do you
I
think
I
GW
did
would
get
be?
my World Leaders model. So
Oh yeah. You got
I got
Warrior
the
one.
Terminator.
Nice. Yeah, I got the fantasy one. Do you think GW will be pissed? Because I know they're gonna put a battle report on the Warhammer Plus. Would they be pissed if we like watched it and we like commentated over the battle report?
I think that's in there like IP thing. Like I don't think you can.
Like we can't do that.
Yeah. You'd have to look at that. I don't think you can. I think that is in like their stuff.
That's in their
Because I
thing.
don't know if anyone else does that.
Nobody does that. That's why I don't think
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure we.
I think
there's
it's
something against that.
included in their
The
IP
TOS kind of thing. Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
I see.
Because anything on Warhammer Plus, because it's a subscription account,
Yeah. That
you
makes
can't
sense.
show it to people who don't have a subscription.
That's right. That makes sense.
Technically, as long as you don't show it, like you could talk about it.
Like we could we do like free like still frames? Like we don't play the video. But we just like click through the video and like
I
commentate
would
on
have
things.
to. I would have to look at their rights usage.
All right, now might
and
be a
figure
little
that out.
suspect.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll see what we can do. We'll definitely comment on when we get.
Because that's kind of the like a lot of people get around the you're not allowed to hold the book under the camera unless you're Ash. But
Unless you're Ash.
like people will then rewrite the rules themselves and like do a still in it. Like we're not showing the books, but we are writing out the rules.
All right, like could I just put Wahapedia on screen and
I
read
mean,
Wahapedia
I guess,
while
right?
on screen? Can I say
Like
Wahapedia without GW coming after us? We're too small.
you
We're fine.
cannot pretend, you cannot copyright the words. Yeah,
All right, all right. Well, there we go. We hit an hour. Feel like
yeah.
we have appropriately summed up our thoughts on
It was ninth edition.
ninth edition.
And the final thoughts. No one's gonna remember this edition. It
Yeah, it was it was a learning period. I guess that's what we'll
was a
say.
learning period. Yeah.
GW, I'll give them credit. Probably has learned a lot from all of the things that they have changed and experimented with, and
But
hopefully
like
going to 10th. No.
on the other side tangents that GW does learn, like it shows with Age of Sigmar. Every new Age of Sigmar army book release improves on the army, makes the game better. Like
It's true.
AOS
True.
shows that they know how to basically fix their game.
Right.
I think they're good with AOS because they rebooted, started fresh.
Yes.
And yes, first edition, second edition, they grew. Now third edition, I think it's their good edition for AOS.
I agree. Anybody who's watching this, if you haven't tried AOS, this third edition is a really good game. And I think
Yeah.
we are already seeing a lot of that learning from AOS getting ported into the upcoming 40K previews that we've seen. So
Definitely.
I'm pretty excited for that. That one I will agree. Yeah. People calling 40K like similar to AOS is not by any means a
Right.
knock against the game. It is actually a plus.
I don't know why people wouldn't think they would do it. Like AOS is a good selling game. People play the game. People like the rules.
Yeah. It is fun to
They're-
play.
Right.
It
At some
yeah.
point they do that with all their games because there was stuff that they carried over into AOS from 40K.
Mhm.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and they're not going to like hard reboot it. They're not going to do it AOS. No one's lighting their army on fire. Like, there's no way they would ever do that to 40K. Like,
No,
They
not
should.
in the least.
they should, but they're not.
They should. Some people should.
They should. I mean, changing BS is the best thing. Like, no one cared. Like, oh, BS5. Okay.
Yeah, no one cares. No one cares.
Okay.
Just tell me.
What do I hit on?
Right. The fact that the BS was barely even a modifiable
Right.
stat to begin with, it's like, yeah, just
Strength being a big thing, you didn't need strength as a stat anymore. Just put on a weapon.
put on the weapon. That is
We
good.
don't use it raw. We don't test strength anymore. We don't test initiative. We don't even have initiative anymore. This is boomer territory. now.
Whoa! People are just
We're
like, what the
all
fuck's initiative?
boomerang. We're supposed to finish this. Now I'm the boomerang if there's not even initiative anymore.
I forgot that thing people used to test strength. Like, that used to be a thing.
People used to test strength and you fail. Like, you'd have psychic powers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Man, that was some jank shit.
You should test initiative too. Like,
We
that
don't
was.
need that shit anymore.
I don't need that. Yeah. I don't need that anymore.
The only people who miss that shit is Space Wolf players, and fuck those guys.
7th edition.
7th edition, indeed.
7th edition. No. Yeah. I think 10th's gonna be good.
Yeah. All right.
Looking into it, 10th's gonna be good.
So far, I do like
Yeah.
all the stuff that
Like-
I'm seeing on it.
8th and 9th will fall into the like. It was a time. It was the best at times, but it was a good time. I don't think it was the best.
It was a good time.
Yeah, I think it got a lot of people into. I mean, the pandemic helped, but I think a lot of people awakened to GW and Warhammer through 8th and 9th edition.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think it's GW's best time.
That's fair. That's
hands down.
I agree with that. Yeah,
For them, 8th and 9th was their best time.
it's true. All right. Well, we will see as we roll up on 10th. I do just want 10th. So
Yeah.
for all the people who stuck with this channel, we appreciate it because you're not really going to get a lot of this content until 10th actually hits. But 10th,
Yeah.
10th will definitely be doing a lot of content for 10th. Pretty excited for that. I don't know. We'll play some other games in the meantime. We keep saying that. We've promised a lot. We've promised a lot of people that we play a lot of games on this channel, and we'll get around to it one day.
We'll get around to it one day.
All right, everyone. Appreciate you guys all hanging in there. Welcome to the end of 9th. We'll see you guys all in 10th. Peace out.
Peace.